So basically, I replaced the sound capacitors in this and everything went as planned. But then, as I was putting everything back together, the contrast wheel fell off. Seriously, I've got to hand it to it. This repair is just throwing surprises at me. That is the last thing that I expected to fall off. So that fell off and I can't attach it, and now I can't change the contrast. So it's stuck on a crappy contrast. But it does turn on and I do have sound. See? So yeah.
Hello retro gamers, and today I have fantastic news. As you may have seen in a snippet I just included, 3.5 years ago I made a video on replacing capacitors in Sega Game Gears, just like this one here. And this was the actual unit which I used for demonstration purposes, where I replaced all the caps. Everything went fine in that regard. I'll link it down below if you want to watch the whole video. It's pretty badly made, if I'm going to be honest. It goes for like 17 minutes. Probably could go for about 4 minutes. Anyway, at the end of the video, I never quite totally fixed the Game Gear. Basically, and this is probably the last thing you'd expect to happen, the contrast wheel fell off. And that's no joke. It fell off. It's actually this one here. It just fell apart on me, basically. And while the Game Gear was now working, because it wasn't working at all beforehand because the capacitors were completely bonk, the contrast was stuck on something shitty. So anyway, I was thinking about it the other day, and I made this a long time ago where my skills were a lot worse than they are now. I mean, I'm still no expert when it comes to electronics, but I like to think I'm a bit better. I mean, I do have this really cool permanent station set up for one. And in the other video, well, I didn't actually talked about it in the other video, but I was never able to separate, because basically I had two Game Gears. I had another old Game Gear, and the idea was to move the old contrast wheel, well, that's actually the new one, the old one from my parts bin over there to this one, and then basically everything will be okay. But because I was so crap at electronics then, I didn't understand what solder wick was. I didn't own solder wick. I didn't even know it existed. All I had was a solder sucker, and I was trying to remove basically the contrast wheel of this shitty plastic solder sucker I bought from China for like 10 cents or however much it was. So anyway, 3.5 years have elapsed. Cut a long story short, today I successfully used solder wick, and I pulled out the old contrast wheel, which even fell apart even more once I pulled it out. And I put in the other contrast wheel I had that was in complete condition, and I chucked it in. And yeah, Namcot. Anyway, I have successfully replaced the contrast wheel. As you can see, I can contrast all I want. I am the contrast king, and that's really messing with like the camera there. I can't tell what's a meter. So anyway, I'm very happy about this. I'm absolutely ecstatic because I've just had this sitting in my parts bin for 3.5 years. So now, as you can see, I should have turned it off. It's going to mess with the metering again. But you can see these lines going across here, and I'm not really sure what's causing those. So my next task now will be to figure out what's causing those lines and hopefully fix it. And yeah, from there I'll have another totally working Game Gear. Okay, minor breakthrough. I realized that if I sort of apply pressure to this contact point here, it affects the amount of lines. So it's creating more lines than really reducing them. So just gonna keep playing around with that and see where it gets me. So as you can see, heating it up with a soldering iron and that little contact point there makes the lines go away, but after a little while they do reappear, which will probably happen in a second. Either that or I fixed it. Woo! Probably haven't though. The only reason I say that is because I saw another video where the guy was trying to fix it, and basically he was applying heat to that little point there with just a soldering gun, and it was making the lines disappear for literally a second, and then they would reappear. But They haven't reappeared yet. Oh, no, there we go. Ah, man. Thought it was fixed there for a second, but... So yeah, I wonder what's going on there. Very interesting indeed. Okay, so here we are a few days later, and well, I haven't really changed much when it came to the Game Gear. I never really figured out what the actual problem was with the screen. I did extensive research, well, as far as what I can call research anyway, which is me basically Googling around, and I couldn't really find anything definitive to help me with figuring out what was wrong with the screen. From my own research, it does appear to be from the connection point between the motherboard and the ribbon cable and that little black bar, which I think is solder. It's kind of hard to tell. It didn't melt easily. But when I played around with that with the solder iron, as you saw in the previous video, it did somewhat fix the image. So now I'm basically at this point. And you can see these lines, they have reappeared, unfortunately. Not as bad as they were before. But... yeah, to be frank, I am stumped. I don't know what's wrong with that. If you know what the problem is and you successfully fixed it, then please let me know. I do have a scrap Game Gear there in the parts box. I would be very happy to replace the screen out of that into this if it wasn't like a ribbon cable soldered onto the motherboard down the bottom here with all these little connection points. And I just don't feel like doing that. And plus, I'm not 100% sure that LCD in the other Game Gear is at working capacity. So, but fear not, because I do have another working Game Gear. So I'm happy that this Game Gear is now in a usable state, even if it does have some black lines. I do have some plans for it. And that plan is called a GGTV. If you don't know what a GGTV is, then look it up. But a GGTV is what I want to add to this. Basically, to say in a shortened way, it's a little chip that you add to it and solder to a bunch of different places, and it allows you, and it basically you add an extra video port to the top there, and then it basically gives it composite out. And composite out would be great for me because I can use that to record game footage for my video reviews. And if you've seen other Game Gear reviews, very sadly on my behalf, I have used emulators. Games I've owned, I should add, but emulators to basically record what I was playing. And I hated doing that because emulators are a pain in the ass. So yeah, I want to add one of these chips, and I'm going to keep my other Game Gear wholesome, but I want to add a chip, that GGTV to this chip, and use this basically as a console Game Gear. So yeah, that's my plan. But I'll do that in a completely different video. As far as I'm concerned, this video is complete. I got this Game Gear working. The main problem was the contrast wheel. That's been fixed. The screen is not really fixed, but to the best of my capabilities. And like I said, if you know a way to fix that, then please let me know. Otherwise, yeah, not going to ramble on. I think this video is at its end. Thank you for watching. And I have a few repair videos and modification videos coming up. So please stay tuned for those if you like those. Anyway, I love you. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.